that is how I learned a lot of language around the fact that this is not a crisis. This is
Mhm.
transformation. It feels like a meltdown for sure. And then when you lean into it and you pay attention to what's calling to you, you can transform into your next beautiful self.
Hey, girlfriends, and welcome to another episode of Tracy Gold Show. Today, we are talking about the big midlife topic. And you know what? Midlife does not have to mean crisis. And so today, my guest, Lisa Levine, is going to be speaking about her book, Midlife No Crisis. You can see already I have a whole bunch of notes, and also just telling her personal story about her process of going from midlife and beyond and how to do it audaciously and with great fun. So, thank you so much, Lisa, for joining us. It's wonderful to have you here.
Yay. So happy to be here, Tracy. Thanks for having me.
Awesome. So, Lisa, tell us a little bit. We're definitely getting to your book, and your book is amazing. And I have some notes and have some questions. But I would love for the viewers to get a feel of who you are and what your story is.
Sure. So my story is that I grew up very much in like the suburbs of America and eating the standard American diet and never really didn't even know what the word audacious meant. Was very much trained to be a good girl, do my, follow the rules, be in my place. And I ended up sort of separating from that at a young age. I ended up living in New York City and going to studying film at NYU. And that's when I started to do things a little bit differently. I still think I was trying to find my way of fitting in, but I was doing it differently than I was sort of trained to. And I got an audaciously awesome job at a record company right out of college, doing music video stuff, which in the mid 80s, early 90s was fantastic. I mean, music video was really just a blink in the eye. And lucky I was in the right place at the right time. And that journey took me from New York City to Los Angeles, where I think I was 24, and my boss said, well, if you want to move there, you can have a job. And I thought, why not? And I never went back east. That was the first audacious thing I really did, because, I mean, nobody had no family there. I had nothing. I just had a job. So I went, and it was fun.
Wow.
Stayed. And I stayed in the production. I was doing music video for a production company when I took myself on a vacation, sort of the first one. I was 29, I went to Hawaii to visit a friend. And while I was there, I went to see Pearl Jam. I was friends with some of those people, and I met my husband backstage at the Pearl Jam show in Hawaii.
And what an amazing place to meet a husband.
I was with my best friend at the time, and she and I were there. She had never seen Pearl Jam, so I took her to the show. And my husband, whose name is Eddie, came and talked to me, and he chatted with us. And then he said, I'll go get you girls a beer. And my friend said, that guy likes you. And I said, oh, that's a nice guy. And she said, no, that guy really likes you. You're going to marry that guy. I was like, you're crazy. I just met him 5 years ago. And a year later, we were engaged and moved to Seattle. And a year after that, she played the harp at our wedding. So that was, we met 29 years ago in September. That'll be 29.
That's incredible, Lisa. Well done. 29 years. Yeah, we've been married for 21. So just behind you, but it's a long time, right? It's amazing.
It's quite the journey of, learning about yourself and learning patience and learning all the things that, all the lessons that really help us to, grow and be who we are.
Yeah. So, Lisa, what brought you to the awareness that midlife doesn't have to be a crisis?
So I stayed in production, and then I had some kids, and then I went back, and I was in my job in production, and we would be sitting up at the office, all eating lunch together. And when I think I was 48, 49. And I started recognizing, first I had to go into the crisis, what I thought was a crisis, to find out that it wasn't a crisis. So at this time I was...
This is going to be interesting. I want to hear the crisis that wasn't the crisis.
Well, I found out that it's not a crisis. It's a transformation, and it's beautiful, and it's awesome. But it felt like a crisis, because as I was sitting with these people who I worked with doing this job that I enjoyed, I suddenly went, I want more. I don't want to talk about
Mm,
this stuff. I want to talk about the universe. I want to talk about things that matter. I want to reflect. And that was the beginning of it. If I don't know, if I'm not, if I don't know what I want to do, if I know I don't want to do,
mm,
what do I want? Like where what is it? It's, it's,
mm.
there's that song, I can't remember who sings it. Is that all there is? It's like an old,
Yes.
and that was kind of like on the refrain, like, is this all there is? What, there's something more.
Mm,
And
mm.
ultimately brought me to to diving into life coaching. And I
Yes.
went through my program with the Martha Beck Institute, and I like to compare it, this both the coaching experience initially and the non-crisis, the transformation, as it felt like I pushed off into the fog on a life raft with no oars, and I couldn't see where I was going. I also
Wow.
wasn't able to go back. I knew there was something there, so there was a lot of leaning into it and trusting that I was going where I was meant to go. And sure enough, I ended up there. And then
Mm,
once I got to the other side and learned how to really ask myself questions, the life coaching kind of questions, like, what are the things that make you go, oh, yes, more of this. I love this. I want to
mm,
keep doing this. I added health coaching to my repertoire because I really sincerely believe that wellness, which is a buzzword that gets, sometimes gets a bunch of crap. I think that wellness is
mm.
really a partnership between body, mind, and spirit. And so I
Yes.
to add in that how to nourish yourself from the
Mm.
so coaching, for me, when I coach my clients, especially around midlife, it's how to be audacious from the inside out and from the outside in.
Yeah, that's amazing. I also think that Martha Beck is just based on what you've just said, would be the perfect trainer for you. Like her methods would be the perfect trainer for you because, she really does know what it's like to step outside yourself, to leave what you've known, to be really true to yourself. And she also has a very, very strong concept and understanding of the mind body connection and how those two are related. I mean, I read her book, Leaving the Saints.
Hmm.
Whew, that was, I related to a lot in that book. There was also, Expecting Adam, Finding Your North Star. She's done a lot of powerful inner work. And so, did you find that translated really well in the training programs?
Absolutely. I mean, she really changed my life in so many ways. And the question you asked me
Mm,
about, how did I realize that midlife was not a crisis? It's a, that how did I realize that it was a transformation, was really her coaching model is rooted in the fact that when we go through meltdowns in various stages in our lives, it feels
mm,
like a meltdown. Her metaphor is that it is the caterpillar going into the cocoon, that phase one meltdown, when you literally dissolve into a puddle of DNA goop. Like all the information is there, but it's
mm.
phase of dreaming and scheming and reforming. So you've got your basic DNA there, but then you transform into what your
Yeah,
phase is going to be.
yeah,
And then phase three,
yeah.
the emerging and the climbing out. So that is how I learned a lot of language around the fact that this is not a crisis. This is, yes,
Mhm.
transformation. It feels like a meltdown for sure. And then when you lean into it and you pay attention to what's calling to you, you transform into your next beautiful self, which is,
That's amazing. And Lisa, in your book, you allude to, letting go of what you were and being ready for that transformation. Do you think that there is also some form of a grieving process for some women as we leave, that stage of our life into, to go through to come out on the other side?
yes, that's a great question, and is absolutely the case. It's different for all women. For instance, if you have children and your kids are growing up, there's definitely a grieving process. It's not so much about, for me anyway, it was not so much about, oh, my kids are leaving, but oh, that chapter of my life is done. Wow, I didn't
Mm,
actually plan for this next chapter. Right? That part is over, and it's a sadness that that part is over. And I think you do need to grieve it sometimes before you can, so you can
mm,
the next. And if you don't have children, say you've been in a career for a long time or in a relationship or with anything, when there is a change, and sometimes you're just grieving your youth. I mean, it's
yeah.
okay to grieve that. It's really okay. I miss my collagen. I think I need to have a little, a little sadness sometimes about not having the collagen
Yeah.
to have.
Yeah.
There is grieving for sure, or there can be.
Mm,
And
mm.
but when you honor that, you can move on to the next place.
Yeah, yeah. I think, yeah, I love what you're saying about once you acknowledge it and you give yourself the space to feel that, it allows you then to transition. But I think that sometimes we get stuck in this, no, we must feel fine, we must feel fine. But actually, we need to process that emotion as if we had lost something or someone.
100%. See, that is part of that Martha Beck coaching model. It's that you are grieving, and part of your
Mm,
identity is is dying, is going away, and then a new part's
yeah,
going to come back. But it is an identity meltdown, and
mm,
and that can happen throughout your life at any time. But the midlife one is really a specific time because there are so many changes happening mentally,
yeah,
emotionally, physically. They call menopause the change, and
yeah,
it's true. There's a lot of change, and I cannot tell you how many of my clients have said to me at one time or another, "Oh, I suck at change. I'm terrible with change. I hate change." It's like life is change. That is what it is, and it can change.
yeah, especially now. I mean, I think we all are gonna have bachelor degrees in like, no, master degrees in change, because that's what we've just gone through as an entire world, and what some countries are still going through is massive uncertainty and massive change.
Totally. Look how resilient we are. All of us.
Mm,
We are showing up. And I think that we are all so much more resilient than we give ourselves credit for. And so when people tell me they suck at change, I immediately start to coach them around how can we change that story. I'm noticing the idea when you say, I suck at change or I hate change, versus I'm having the thought that I hate change, or I'm having the thought that I stink at change.
mm,
Changes the energy around it. You don't have to attach to those stories. And then you can change them by finding evidence for the fact that the opposite is true. Like, I am resilient. I just got through the pandemic. I just got through stuff I didn't know how I was ever going to make it.
yeah,
And I did.
yeah. Yeah. And Lisa, I think what's also very important about what you just said is that when you're identifying, if you're saying, I suck at change, it means you're saying, I am bad at something. So you're identifying with that statement. However, if you're just saying, I'm having a thought about not being great at change, it's just a passing thought. It doesn't become part of your identity. And what we really do is we act out of our identity, right? You do speak about the lizard brain, or some people call it the lizard brain. So you call it the lizard brain, right? You've got the lizard brain. So tell us now. I mean, I love neuroscience stuff. Like, I totally geek out on that stuff. But for people who don't know what the lizard brain is and why it's important at this time of midlife.
Yes, so the lizard brain is a part of our reptilian brain, which is one of the oldest parts of the brain, and it sort of emerged as a safety feature, which really did help keep us alive when we needed it. It was one of those things it's really connected to the fight or flight. It's
Mm,
paying attention to what's coming, what's behind us, what's in front of us. Don't do that. That's a big mistake. Make sure you don't go into that cave. We don't know what's waiting for us. And so we evolved with that. It's hardwired into our brains, and we can't change it.
mm,
However, we have gotten way beyond those the same we have different survival. We don't need those. We have those instincts. We don't need them in the same way. So
mm,
now what happens is the lizard brain is constantly looking for trying to keep us safe, but it's looking in places that really and creating anxiety in what places that we don't need to have it. So
yeah.
it certainly with aging, it can say, "Oh my gosh, everything it's all downhill from there," or
Yes.
and that's a combination of the lizard brain and cultural programming that the
Mm,
brain pays attention to that stuff in a big way,
mm,
cultural myths,
mm,
and it looks
mm.
for it and it jumps on it and says, "Oh gosh, everything's crazy now, and we're all screwed." And when you
Yes.
again noticing when your lizard brain is activated and coming back into the moment and breathing and telling your lizard to back off, creating space between those thoughts again. Martha Beck actually says, she names her lizard. She coaches us to find your lizard and give her a name and have a
Yeah.
conversation.
Mine is Gertrude. Yeah. Yeah. She's
Yeah.
having a tantrum. When she's having a tantrum, she's like my little girl. She's like my little. She's not. She's little Tracy. And when she's having a temper tantrum, yeah, I find it very helpful to have a conversation with her.
Mine is Amy, and I do sometimes. I just say, "Look, Amy, have a grape and go back into the cave because we don't need you.
Yes.
Don't
Yes.
need you at all." And really,
Yeah.
the lizard brain is just doing its job. And when you recognize that it's just doing its job to keep you safe, that can also be helpful to say, "Thank you for doing your job. I appreciate.
Mm,
I don't need you right now. I'm glad you're here, but not now.
yeah.
Not with."
Lisa, I think it's very important what you're talking about because this show is about inspiring women to not be defined by their age, to live their best life, midlife and beyond, to thrive at any age. Yet I am also aware that if we have deep-seated beliefs, if women listening and watching this have deep-seated beliefs that it is over for them, how can they move from that? Well, first of all, how can they become aware of those beliefs? And then how can they move from it's over for me now versus actually I can transform and recreate my life. And I have like a whole nother life to live almost.
Yeah. Well, there's so many answers to that question. And since everybody is different, it really
Mm,
depends. I cover a lot of that in my book because the whole idea about this book really is about reconnecting people with that sense of possibility, that infinite sense
mm,
of personal possibility, and
mm.
override that and the overriding feeling of that, and also just the tools that I will give people to it's like pick the tool that works the best for you. However,
Yes.
it does go into what we are just talking about with recognizing what some of those cultural myths are. So
Mm,
starting with being a detective in your own life, putting on your detective hat and really starting to look at things with curiosity
yes.
instead of fear. So why is this happening? Like, why is this happening? To why is this happening? Why? Well, I feel like
Mm,
this. Why do I feel like this? What is the thought?
mm.
We might feel a certain way, but behind the feeling is the thought that's spurring the feeling. And
Yeah.
I'm sure I've heard this at some point in your travels, but there's a circumstance, and the circumstance will create a thought, and the thought creates the feeling, and the feeling creates the response.
Mm,
And so, no, if you have a feeling, if you feel dismay or despair about aging, there's a thought that's propelling that feeling. So, starting to be curious and pay attention to what those thoughts are. And then, once you know what they are, you can start to create some space in there and question, are they even true? Where did
mm.
you learn that? Says who? Starting to build up your repertoire of people who are showing you the opposite, like you. I mean, literally following somebody like you who is actually out there doing the work and showing that aging is awesome. I mean,
Yeah.
it is a time in our lives that's so unique and so full of personal power. I mean, we know ourselves so much better now than we used to, and
Absolutely.
we've learned that no is a complete sentence, and we've learned that I like to say in the book, I talk about, instead of FOMO, the fear of missing out, it turns into JOMO, the joy of missing out, because you realize
Mm,
I don't really want to do that. I don't really want to go to that social event. I really just
mm.
want to stay home in my pajamas and pet my
Yeah.
cat and watch TV. I mean, and that's okay. It's liberating, frankly.
Yeah. Yeah, and I love what you're saying because I also think it is about acknowledge it's sort of, doing a little bit of an audit of what we're filling our minds with. If we're filling our minds with content that is showing us either just subliminally or images of young beautiful women acting as if only young women are beautiful, or are we filling our minds with content like this where there are alternative ways of thinking and maybe it can spark something in us and go, oh, well, maybe like so many women are saying it's actually amazing. Maybe I should start thinking differently. Or, that's what's great is that these things are starting to become available. And I think these conversations are starting to be had. Don't you think, Lisa? I think that this is almost like a new thing. I feel like menopause, midlife, all of this stuff has been almost just shoved, into the closet, and we don't talk about it. Now we're bringing it out into the open, and we're really having some real good conversations.
I love it. I love how that trend. I mean, it's fantastic, and that is part of what I think is going to potentially can make this time in our lives I don't want to say easier. I mean, it might be easier, but more supported because it is
Yes.
definitely, you're definitely able to reach out and look and find role models that will counteract all of that cultural mythology that we believe that somehow it's over for us and that we've lost
Mm,
our desirability or our relevance, which I couldn't find to be less true. And
yes.
I mean, it also, just thinking about the menopause and this change in our lives that is coming, whether you're in perimenopause or postmenopause, it really ultimately I think, creates more space and freedom just in the simple way that you're not biologically, we're not thinking about procreating anymore. Biologically, we're not doing that.
Mm,
There's more space in our minds that we can direct toward deeper, more meaningful activities to help other people, to put ourselves
mm,
whole new way. And I think that what happens for many of us is if we are used to doing things a certain way, the idea of that change feels so overwhelming. They think
mm,
Women think I'm not trained to do anything else. I've been out of the workforce for so long, or I've been doing this same job for my whole career. The idea of changing now, I can't do it. It's all about just approaching it gently, and you don't have to quit your job and move everything into an RV. I mean, unless you really want to. But
that could be fun.
unless you're really called to do that. But it's okay to not know and to have that
Mm,
part of the adventure and to just,
mm,
stay doing anything. I like to talk about vision boards because I think they can be so much fun. And is a vision
yes.
board going to solve all your problems? No, of course not. But it's going to be a really fun activity to start to explore what things make you say, oh, yeah, this, yes, this, that light you up.
Mm,
Or like Martha Beck says, helps to create you feel like the feeling that you're more on the path to your North Star.
mm,
Things that speak
mm,
to your essential self. And because we have all this other stuff that's telling us what we should be doing, we forget to check in with our bodies and our essential selves about what we really want to be doing it, what's interesting.
yeah.
We forget
Yeah.
this is
Yeah.
a fun opportunity. It's an adventure for that, is the way I like to look at it.
It really is. Yeah. You also mentioned the three C's. So can you talk about that?
Yes. So the three C's of midlife, if I can remember correctly, because I've added a couple of other ones as I've gone along, but
Shall I remind you? I
I,
have this. I have it. I have a note in here on the three C's. Hold on, if I can find my old paper notes. I didn't even have post-its. I couldn't even find any post-its. Hold on. Okay, the three C's. So you have community, connection, and curiosity.
so curiosity, I already mentioned, which I think is just an important lens to switch into that lens of curiosity and notice what things have changed, what things feel right, what things don't, without going to the, oh my God, I'm freaking out, everything's changing. Community, certainly, because again, as women, we are often the ones in our relationships, whether it's, family relationships or partner relationships, that create that community, and our needs change. And so
Mm,
making sure that you have communities that support your current needs and support what you're going through. There are some incredible midlife communities out there. The Wolfer is one that I love, the Covey Club. There's so many out
mm,
there where you can go online and you can find a community of women who are going through exactly what you're going through. And I think that it's can be incredibly supportive. So community and curiosity, and what was the third one? Because I've added connection. So
yeah,
connection,
connection.
huge. Connection to other women, as I said, other people who are going through what you're going through, but connection to yourself is also
Mm,
gigantic, and connection sometimes to something that's bigger than you, some kind of spiritual connection. As I said,
yeah.
when I was going through my transformation, one of the first things that I felt really deeply was, I need something more. Is this all there is?
Mm,
I want to talk about the universe. I want to talk about
yeah.
how we're all connected. I want that meaning. So connection is another one. The one I've also added conversation, because I think that conversation, which is a part of community, but really talking about how you're feeling,
Mm.
what you're going through, is huge. Whether it's with your friends, with a therapist, with a life coach, with whoever, I think conversation is a big one for sure.
Yeah,
I added
yeah. I think also, I've heard quite a lot about community and about our female friends, and also as we get older, for many of us who have children and the kids have now moved out of the house, and that kind of thing, that your girlfriends are really, really important to you. And I think that there's also space for you to have friends that are that kind of have the same type of mindset or approach to aging. Because I think if you're around other people who are doing things, I mean, like I have amazing friends who do the most incredible things, and that inspires me. That makes me feel like, wow, look, she's going out and doing this, and she's like, she's totally being herself. And I think it's important to, I think, yes, online communities are important, but I also think those really deeper friendships where you can be really open and honest with people and also hear how they're dealing with things. Like you say, the conversations, the real conversations where you can not only listen, but you can also be heard.
100%. And I think it's important to tell people that it is really common to find yourself, whether it's with your friends in real life or your friends on Instagram, to sometimes slip into what we like to call compare and despair. And so if and when that happens, to call it out and recognize it. So certainly if you're with your friends and they're people that you know, you can say it. You can say, "Oh, I wish I could do that." Then your friend can say, "Oh my God, honey, it's whatever." But if you're doing it, if you're on Instagram and you're noticing that you're following a bunch of people that make you go, "Ugh, I suck. I can't do that. I'm nothing." Then it's time to start to follow some new people who
Yes.
or to recognize that that's what's happening and to say, maybe I need a little break from Instagram for the rest of the day, and I'm going to go really consciously seek out the things that inspire me, as opposed to letting that bring you down, because it's normal.
Yes.
To do, and we all do
completely normal, especially if you are in a very vulnerable space. Then that kind of thing is going to trigger you probably more than normal, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So just recognizing that that's what's happening. Oh, I'm slipping into compare and despair, and step away. And then there are a series of exercises. I actually do talk about this in the book as well, of things that you can do to take stock of where you are and the things that you're doing. You're making a list of the things. The vision board is one thing, but making a list of the things that you love about yourself or that are going really well, or making a list of the things you want to stop doing so that you can have space for what you want to keep. But there are lots of different tools that you can use to help move through that liminal space of identity meltdown as you get to the next place, which is really the transformation, the beautiful transformation.
I want to end off, there's a quote in here, and I actually loved it, and I didn't realize who it was by, but it's by Oprah Winfrey. And this really struck me, where you write, "So many women I've talked to see menopause as an ending, but I've discovered this is your moment to reinvent yourself after years of focusing on the needs of everyone else."
Oh my God.
And I was like, wow, this really does speak to so many women. Many of us have raised children, run households, careers, everything. And now you have a chance to really decide who it is you want to be and the kind of life that you want to live.
Yes, it's like a deep breath, and it really is. It's an opportunity. It's a little bit of a gift. You don't have to you get to figure that out and to explore that. And what a treat. I look at it as a gift. I mean, is it uncomfortable? Oh gosh, yeah, it can be super uncomfortable. It's like that meltdown, it doesn't feel, and we are humanly, we want to avoid being uncomfortable. We'll do whatever we can to avoid it. But when you're in it, recognizing that that's what's happening and leaning into it and putting on that lens of curiosity and knowing that it will move to the next phase. But the more you resist, the harder it can be.
Lisa, I have found when I'm doing some shifting, especially of deep unconscious beliefs that have held me back in some area, and it's always good to do a recalibration and to really check in. I find that just like I can feel almost the physical discomfort of that. Like my anxiety levels will go up. I'll wake up in the middle of the night. Exactly what you say about the lizard brain is waking up, danger, danger, danger. I have learned to actually embrace that and to go, okay, now I'm on track. Because if it was too easy, like if I'm not getting to that deep subconscious belief that I want to change, then I'm not going to feel uncomfortable. If it gets close, if it's getting close, or if it's right on the button, man, it's going to feel uncomfortable. And often I think we as people, as human beings, think, oh, if it's uncomfortable, it must be wrong.
Yeah, that's
but
right.
It isn't.
It's got to be easier. So one of the things about when you're in that cocoon meltdown is starting to look at things at 10 minutes at a time, moving from hawk
Mm.
view to mouse view, right? So you don't have to have the complete overview of everything that's going to happen. You don't need
Yes.
to figure it out. Just knowing what you need in the next 10 minutes or hour or day can be enough. And
Mm.
cocooning, literally, whether it's wrapping yourself in blankets, putting your hands on your heart can really help trigger the parasympathetic nervous system. And it's almost like giving yourself a hug, so
Yeah.
tuning in with yourself to help calm you down and recognizing that in this moment, you are okay.
Mm.
I might be changing. I might be melting down. Part of me might be melting down and hasn't started to reform, and I'm still okay. In this,
Yeah.
I am okay. And sometimes that's the best thing to do when you're in
Mm.
comfort and recognizing I can't change the whole thing. I can just get through
Yeah.
minutes.
Yeah. That's so good.
Yeah.
That's so good. So, Lisa, where can people find you? Because I'm sure that there are women out there that are feeling stuck. They know that there's transformation to be done. They know that that they will eventually get there, but they just don't know how and they need guidance. How can they find you?
Well, they can certainly find me on my website, which is audaciouswellness.com. And I do talk about all of the ways that we can connect to our audaciousness. So
Yes.
in the way that we think, but also in the way that we nurture ourselves physically, the food that we eat, the thoughts that we
Mm.
think, all of that stuff. So certainly on my website. And I'm very active on social media, on Instagram. Because of the book, I am now the Lisa Levine on Instagram. And yay! And on
Yay.
Facebook too. On Facebook, actually, I think I'm still Audacious Health and Wellness, and that's fine. So a branding expert would tell me, get it all together, Lisa, and do it all in one thing. I'm working on it. Uh,
Yeah. It's
but
it's a process,
yeah,
Lisa, right? Just like everything else. Yeah, I also loved, I was really surprised by the book, like how pretty it is, right? And just how easy it is to read. And it almost feels like if there's a quote that you really like, you could maybe like kind of photocopy and almost like color photocopy and frame it somewhere or laminate it. Something you really need a reminder of. It's just such a beautiful
me
reading
too.
experience.
It's really
It's
lovely, which is why I really encourage people to get it in real life, not just on Kindle, because Kindle's beautiful too, but it's so nice to just look at it. And the folks who designed it, I mean, I love them. Indelible editions, they're wonderful. And in fact,
yeah.
we are talking about doing a guided journal experience to go with it. So we're working.
That would be amazing. I think that would be so good.
There are so
Yeah,
many
awesome.
questions that we ask, and then we can have, just to be able to look at the quotes. There's the camera, and look at it all. I do. I find that to be inspiring. Just to say, the book is set up as so that it's in small bites, right? Because if you are in a
Yes,
situation where you feel like you're in a midlife overwhelm, sometimes just having like a big to-do book is going to feel like it's adding to the overwhelm. This is
yes,
designed so that you can kind of keep it by your bed. Somebody said, oh, it's like I have a life coach by my bed table, where you can pick it up and you can go, oh, I can digest this small bite. I can do this thing. I might
yes.
not be able to change all the things. Like I said, when it's in mouse view. What is the one thing I can do? This has
Yeah.
size pieces to make it more digestible.
Yes, I agree with that. I mean, I had it next to my bed and just would read a little bit every night, and I really enjoyed that, pause and give it some thought and, yes, what do I want to do about that? So it wasn't this massive like door stopper of a book that I needed to get through.
Right. Sometimes those are great, but in this case, when you're feeling like you're in the midlife unraveling, sometimes it's nice just to have small bites so that
Yeah,
it's
I agree.
add to your to-do list for
Yeah,
sure.
amazing. Lisa, thank you. Thank you so much. I mean, we didn't even get to the nutrition part, which I think is such an important part. And maybe we can have that as a part two, because I think that is just so, and I really would love to hear your thoughts on that. I have some thoughts also around nutrition and kind of some questions around how that can help with menopausal symptoms and that type of thing. So maybe we need to have a part two of that. Yeah, so let's do that. Let's set
I
that up
love
and
that.
do another conversation. But
Delicious
for
meat,
those,
audacious health. I would love it.
exactly. So for those of you who are new to the channel, keep watching because there are tons of episodes, amazing guests on all different kinds of topics. And just remember that you do not have to be defined by your age, and you can thrive at any age. So girlfriend, go out and do it. And Lisa, thank you so much. And I will put all the handles, Tracy Gold Show on Instagram, and I will put Lisa's handle in the video itself. But also I will put the links that she's spoken about, as well as the link to her book, inside of the description of this video. So you can go ahead and check that out. If the description doesn't exist, just go to her Instagram handle. Thank you so much, ladies. Have a wonderful, wonderful day. Take care.